to actually join it.
This is Caleb Owens with the Insurance Experience, and today I'm with Ben Fike. How are you doing today, Ben?
I'm doing great, Caleb. Thanks for having me. Happy
It's
Friday.
good. Yeah, it's Friday again, so
It is
time for
Friday
the
again.
weekend.
Exactly. It is happy hour. So cheers to that. I should
You
be
got your
maybe I
Topo
should do an
Chico.
endorsement deal. Yeah. This is just water. This is just water.
I
So
believe you.
I don't know if you've had these or not, but it's a just a seltzer. It's 5 calories. So
Yeah, it's Topo
um,
Chico, correct?
Topo Chico, just seltzer water, no
Yeah,
alcohol.
yeah.
They're awesome. So they got a
I drink that
flavored
all the
line
time.
now. Yeah, you probably do the glass bottles, right?
I
Those are awesome as well.
okay.
No flavor,
I
but
like. I know it sounds kind of like really
no
bad
worries.
or unhealthy, but I like the plastic ones.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
It's kind of you
It's
have the
super
glass ones.
carbonated. The carbonate is
Yeah, it
good for you.
changes the flavor too. So like if you have a glass one, it
Yep.
definitely have a different like consistency, a different flavor to it. But
It's like the Coca-Cola in the glass bottle. You get them on usually
yeah,
resorts or other different types of restaurants. Will
yeah.
have those. Yeah. So they make lime, tangerine, and blueberry, and it's
I see.
actually
I haven't had that one.
it's real. They're super good, but they're the same
Yeah,
like carbonated water. So anyway, that's what I got. But anyway,
it's happy
happy
hour for
Friday.
that.
Yeah, happy hour
Yeah.
Friday. Right,
Hey,
exactly.
it's good. I mean, as you get older, you got to start really thinking about these kinds of things. Like, all right, it was great to drink all day whenever you're young, but now you're like, yeah, I don't want to feel like crap the next day.
Right, exactly. Yep. Take it into account. Oh, there we are. There's your. Just want to get us shared.
Sure.
Maybe. Yep. There we go. You said Facebook too, right?
Yep.
Well, we'll come back to that one. Oh no, there it was. This is great. Great radio, as they say right here. Watching this. There we go. Awesome. So how are you? How have you been? It's been a few weeks. We did one
Yeah,
in August, right?
that's right.
And so now September. So I'm just
Yep,
glad to be back. I've been working on myself actually, losing a little bit of weight.
that's
Um,
good.
built a little gym in my basement. I'm at a standing desk now, so I stand a majority of the day. So cheers to Donald Rumsfeld, I guess, right? The only other last guy I knew that did work at a standing desk. I don't know.
Is that right? I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
that was like one of his things is he worked
Oh
from a
wow.
standing desk.
I know a lot of
Um,
people do now. A lot of companies now have these probably the same type of desk you have now that it'll go from a sitting desk to a
yeah,
standing desk. Is that right?
I got a Veridesk, the name
That's
brand.
cool.
So we'll go get some sponsors going here, right? Veridesk, Topo
Yeah,
Chico, you know what I
that's
mean?
right. We need to get paid
Good-
from you guys.
exactly. But yeah, so just been doing that stuff, and having a good time. So glad to be back. So how have you been?
Good, good. Busy, but good. That's really it's good to be busy. If you're not busy, you're starving. So that's why I try
Definitely
to think
blessed.
about it. If I get too busy, I'm like, you know what? Be appreciative you're busy.
Good
Because if
problems
you're
to
not,
have.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I've been trying to lose weight as well, but mine's been for it's been for like a couple years now. And I've gone through like these phases where I was going through swimming, and I
Yeah.
would just swim and swim. I got really, I shouldn't say really good at it. That's a bit overstatement.
Sure.
But I could swim. That's
Yeah.
something I could say that I never was able to do. I could really, swim the proper way. I was never able to actually do that. And then I got into bicycle or cycling. I did like 60 miles, 70 miles, something like that. It was
There you go.
pretty decent. And I really like that. And now I'm into lifting, back to
Okay.
my old habits, if you will, is like
Yeah.
lifting. And so now I'm getting really aggressive into lifting again. And
Awesome.
I enjoy it. It's just something it's like whenever you first start a new exercise routine, you're like, crap, I got to do this again. And you're kind of dragging yourself in there.
Yeah.
But then after you get going with it, you're like, I live
Right.
for this. I will
Yeah.
never miss a day. And I mean, I really live for it. And another thing is kind of gives you a boost. It's like almost drinking a cup of coffee or more after I come out of that gym. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
really feel alive. So
Yeah.
it really wakes you up pretty good, I think.
Yeah. I've been doing this app called Reframe actually.
Okay.
And what it is it's a It is it's a quit drinking app, but it's also a cutback. And so
Okay.
it's kind of a cool psychology piece. It's kind of like Noom. Really, it goes to the
Right.
habits of it, right? And the psychology behind it. But that's one of the things that it talks about is that when you do happy hour every day, and it's a beer, right, at 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
right?
Adds up, doesn't it?
Well, what it does is it trains your brain to release dopamine and serotonin and chemicals when that
Ah,
happens. So you get
okay.
to like 4 o'clock and you're like, your brain's the lowest levels possible, right?
Ah,
And then
fascinating.
everything's annoying you. You just want to get off work. You just want to go
Yeah.
to the corner spot, get a pint, meet with your
Yeah.
friends. And what that is just your brain saying, hey, we'll be really happy if you do this, right? And so what you've done is you've started to retrain your brain
Hmm.
on, hey, now I get up in the mornings and I lift, or after work I go lift, and
Yeah.
that is gives me some of the same endorphins and some of the same chemicals, that make you feel good as it would be as if you went and had that pint with a friend. If you go work
Yeah.
out with a friend, that's even better, right?
Yeah. I would like
But yeah,
that. That'd be.
it's really just the habits. And
Hmm.
there's a book, James Clear, Atomic Habits. He actually talks about the British cycling team. There's a great story in the book about the coach that they hired going around to each kind of category, right? Like, what were the guys eating? What were they wearing? How were they sleeping? How many hours? When were they sleeping? All these little things that you wouldn't think would have a big impact, but the impact of all of those things combined was
Hmm.
exponential. And so they went from being the laughing stock to being champions, in that. So like what you're saying with, you just got to rebuild those habits,
Yeah.
in your life of cycling or whatever, or now your new habit is lifting, which is
Yeah.
great exercise. Burns a lot of calories. It's great for you. So congrats on that. That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, I was in a bad habit there for a little while and it was, I don't want to blame my wife for this, but she would get me like these desserts, and it was like
Yeah,
little, like little piece of cake or something like that. And it was really good. Don't get me wrong. It was really
sure,
good. And they were expensive, but it was a nice, like, some kind of, dessert cake or something like that. It
for
wasn't a
sure.
big deal. It wasn't a big piece, but it's every day. And then another thing is you're absolutely right. You get used to it. And then if you don't get it, you're like, it's kind of like you got to get your fix. You're like, oh, I need my fix. I need my whether it's a pint or like I need my dessert thing.
Yeah,
So if I didn't get it, I would go out and I would find some place and I'd buy something and get something because you kind of have that need to do it. And then after a while, once you retrain your brain to now it's kind of like my fix is these protein shakes.
yeah,
And it's like it kind of takes the same place. It's obviously
sure.
it tastes different, but after a while you're like you need to have that instead. And so
No, there's
it's just
there's
a
a
habit.
definite thing when people reduce or quit alcohol of a
Yes.
sugar, kind of a sugar fix that they have to fill, because a
Hmm.
lot of times it's a sugary drink, but even just that mechanism, that again, that habit,
Yeah.
but you add up a bunch of little new habits. That's what I've been doing, right? It's been a little bit of everything. It's been, I'm at a standing desk now. I go walk every day, instead of taking lunch. I eat, the stuff that I'm eating in smaller portions, or taking more time to eat. So eating slower. So dragging those same, less calories over a few more minutes, right?
Yeah.
Um, Doing some weightlifting in the basement, doing some Pilates, and yoga, which will really
That's
test
really good.
your. It'll
Yeah.
really test you if you would mix in. What you should do is you should, like, lift Mondays, Tuesday Pilates, Wednesday
Yeah.
lift, Thursday yoga, Friday lift. If you did that, your
Yeah.
favorite days would actually be Tuesdays and Thursdays. Like, you'll love
you know,
Pilates and you'll love yoga. You don't think you will right now,
yeah.
but once you stress those muscles by doing those lifts you're doing, and then
Hmm.
you stretch them out and you do the Tom Brady, the pliability stuff with it after that, I'm telling you. We did a gym. Me and my wife did a gym, kind of circuit, a training course thing together, right? And our favorite day was Wednesday because it was yoga. It wasn't
Wow.
strength, it wasn't training, it was stretching out, and being pliable, and
Huh.
working those kinks out of your body that you had, put a bunch of weight underneath,
Yeah.
to lift, and all this stuff. So yeah, definitely check it out.
I definitely will. I heard about that as well. So I know you're right. So, and not only that, it will actually help build your muscles bigger. Ironically, all that kind of stretching and everything like that actually helps, you if you want to get bigger and you want to try to get more definition, you can actually get a lot better with that with Pilates. So you're absolutely correct. But it's just like starting a new exercise, you know, it's the hardest thing for me. You know, I've been trying to do pull-ups now, and I'm just not strong in that area. I can bench a lot. I'm really good at that bench area. I mean, once I get in that bench, I just lock it out, and it's great, you know. But then
Yeah.
I try something different like pull-ups. I'm like, nope,
Well,
not
in
doing
theory, I
that.
mean, in theory, to do pull-ups, you would have to be able to push up your own weight then, at least,
Right.
right? In theory, right? I'm
It's
not.
just a different muscle. It's a
Yeah.
totally different muscle
Yeah.
that you use your back a lot more, use your
Hmm.
abs more. It's not necessarily in your arms like you would think, you know, because I would think just like you're saying, like, okay, well, if I can do this, well, then I can do that. You know, it's going to be the similar muscle group. And once I can lift my own weight, then I'll be there. No, it's not like that at all. It's a totally different muscle. It runs along your back. That's actually doing the
Interesting.
lifting for you. And so I've been working at those muscle groups, trying to build those up, baby steps. And this is
Yeah.
something that I got to be honest, I hate doing just
Yeah.
because it's different. You're just like, no, I don't want to do this. I want to go back to that bench where I'm
Yeah.
good. And it's,
Curls and,
but yeah,
easy stuff,
exactly.
squats and like,
Yeah.
make them simple and stuff. It's the hard. Yeah, that'll be the challenge when you do Pilates. It'll be
It sounds
Pilates is
great,
body weight
actually.
exercises, right? I mean, it's body weight,
Yeah.
and some of those are actually really tough, right? Because you're
I
not
hear
using
that.
any
Yeah.
equipment. Yeah, so I'll send you some stuff after this. I'll send you a
You
few
should.
things.
You should.
It'll challenge you. So
All right.
yeah, how else have you
Excellent.
been? How's things? How's work? How's business?
Good,
Doing
really
good?
good. You know, we're definitely picking up. Not things are not getting crazy. You know,
Hmm.
like a lot of hurricanes. No, luckily, honestly, no hurricanes have hit this year that have done a massive amount of damage. We did have that one run up through Florida, through the
Yeah, how
Panhandle
did that?
area.
Yeah, the Panhandle.
Mhm.
How did that shake out? Were you down there?
No, no,
Okay.
it didn't really do as much. Not like a large scale amount of damage.
So I heard it
Um,
was more rural
it
areas that
is.
it
It
affected.
was.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
percentages of houses go down, which is great. Then less people hopefully out of their house and
But we're still not out of the woods yet. I mean,
yeah,
we're still in the hurricane season. People
sure.
forget these things. They're like, oh, it's already September,
Well, I mean,
20.
yeah, but we're a week from Ian's anniversary. I mean,
That's right.
so
That's right.
Lee was scary for a few, like 2 weeks. It seemed like, they were like, well,
Yeah,
in theory, it's going to curve north at some point. It's like, yeah, well,
that's right.
Ian was supposed to hit Tampa too, and it
Hmm.
turned all of a sudden, and that had a huge effect on those people. So it's going to be interesting to see some of the stuff out of there. What have you seen, in the years since Ian, in some of the housing?
Yeah,
Were you
yeah.
guys
We
in that
had we had
area?
some of the
Yeah,
some of the rebuilding and taking care
sure.
of some of the people down there. It was to be honest, a real mess. Because a lot of the people didn't get covered properly.
Hmm.
I think we've talked about this, and I've talked about this in other podcasts. Is just a lot of it comes down to just education.
Yep.
And if you're waiting till to file the claim, it's too late. It's way too late
Yep.
after the fact. You're actually filing claim to be like, oh, you should have had coverage for this. Should have coverage for that. And a lot of this comes down to like hurricane season and preparing for all that kind of stuff beforehand. Is if you're waiting until the hurricane hits, a lot of these people weren't covered. You know, a lot of people
Yep.
were not covered or denied claims because it was water damage.
Yeah. It's
Just a
flood
variety of
instead
different
of.
factors.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
that's the thing. That's a weird paradox to me. Everyone will review their health and
you're
life
right.
insurance every
You're right.
year, right? They do a review every single year with their employer or whoever's managing. I used to work at Marsh and McLennan. They did a lot of benefit packages, for large corporations. Stuff that you guys would airlines and shipping companies and
Mhm.
stuff that's big companies that you would recognize. And also there we did property and casualty, auto, home, those type of stuff too. But it was always funny to me how people are so they're more invested in their health, which is great. It's good that they
Right.
are, right? But
Right.
the habit, right, is there to, hey, every year we look and say, hey, did we have a life event, or are we foreseeing a life event happen where we
Hmm.
need to change our coverages in order to be properly covered And then we have benefit counselors, and they ask questions to them, and they say, well, what if, little Billy slips and breaks his arm? Well, what if he, catches whatever, all this
Hmm.
stuff they play out. But with property and casualty insurance, it's one thing. It's a singular just race to the bottom of a price.
Yeah.
And those people in that area, right? Setting the carrier, shenanigans aside, and them breaking their promise, right? Somebody just told me, actually, it was Jeremy actually told me just yesterday, an insurance policy is a one page on a promise, to cover you, right? And then
Hmm.
it's 84 other pages of how they're not going to fulfill that promise, right? And
That's an
so,
interesting way of thinking
you
about
won't
it.
find me you won't find me defending insurance companies and mortgage companies too much, but there are, there is some understand, right? There's some responsibility on the policy holder, but
Yeah,
the problem is that, to me, they're unethically conditioned to think that a price is how you purchase this product, and
totally
really
agree.
they don't really purchase anything else on price. They may look at things separately, but it'd be like if you didn't know how a car worked, but you're arguing over a Cadillac, versus a Saturn. I
Right.
guess I date myself. Their Saturns aren't even around, but
Right.
just you got to know what you're purchasing. Because once the fire, once the house is burnt down, once the hurricanes hit, it's already too late. And
Yeah.
so having that review, with your agent or whoever sells you your policy. But it's I when I sold property and casualty, people would always call and ask, I'm trying to get quotes, here's my number, I'm trying to beat this price. And my response was always, look, anyone can sell you a cheaper policy. It depends on what's in the policy.
Right.
Are you buying the same thing, right? Like, I could just take badges off of a Cadillac and put them on a Saturn, and I could be like, hey, it's a Cadillac. And people just don't even read and the analogy would be, people don't even read the paperwork, they sign and they hop in the car and drive off, right?
Yeah.
And then they get in a car accident, and then they don't understand how, well, wait a second, I bought coverage for a Cadillac. This is a Saturn. Well, yeah. You didn't,
Exactly. It's
you
kind
know
of like what you said about your event that happened. That's a great case example. Is the basement flooding. Is that correct?
yeah.
I loved it because I mean it's
Yeah.
you're absolutely correct. Like to add that coverage is like what $2 a month or something
Yep. It's
crazy.
like
It was like
25 bucks a
just
year. Yep. Yep. And I changed the gutters, right? And so
yeah,
I went to Home Depot, I bought some gutters, I fixed it, I thought, the sump
yeah.
pump never ran. Great. And then in less than a year before that policy even renewed, so I declined water backup. They asked me. Now, the person did not say, which this is how I end up, selling it that way. They didn't say, hey, sir, water backup. I guess I didn't ask to extreme ownership, but they didn't
Sure.
say, hey, this coverage is $25 a year for a $10,000 payout. Then I might have said, well, all right, just keep it on there, whatever,
Right.
But they don't. Nobody takes into account, the coverage versus the cost. The biggest
Sure.
misunderstanding in auto insurance is that if I have minimum coverages, which are $10,000, and I 10x those coverages up to $100,000, it's going to be 10 times the price.
You
And in
would
fact,
think.
it's not. It's not.
Right.
It's usually less than 1x the price. Sometimes it's not even that. We're talking $32 a month or something. And
Hmm.
so you can take some of the savings that you have from understanding what the coverages mean and apply it to other coverages, and still beat that price. But you got to be super careful, because if you're not reviewing, if you don't understand it, I mean, what other kind of contract, we call it a policy, right? But what other contract do you sign and pay money to somebody for that you don't read and understand?
Right.
Like, you might not read all the terms and conditions of your mortgage agreement, right? Every single page, right? But you have somebody for that to say, hey, break this down,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
You might not read every single word of your car loan, but you understand the interest, you understand the payments, you understand, all the different factors of it. But
You
people
should.
just
You
people
should.
just go off
Most
a
people
price, but
should understand that.
they're conditioned. So again, I denied water backup coverage because I was like, well, I don't need it, because I've never had I haven't had a claim, so this is just a bill to me. That's how I look at it. So I just want the lowest bill possible, right?
Sure.
And then we had a 10-inch rain in 3 hours, and I had 8 inches of water that went reverse through the sewer. So just picture that in the basement, finished basement, right? No water backup coverage because I had declined it because I didn't think, that sound, maybe it's expensive. I didn't ask. So just reviewing that, is crucial, and just knowing what you have, just like you do with your health benefits,
Right.
because you review your health benefits for like a birth of a child, right? You're gonna have a life change, so you can change your benefits.
Sure.
But also, if your house has a catastrophe, well, that affects your child's life too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
so it should be placed with just as much importance. One of the problems I see though is that unfortunately policyholders are conditioned to the point that they think that the price is the only thing. Like I have no idea. I have no earthly idea. I can't wait to talk to some of the thought leaders in the industry, and when I meet insurance folks, just ethically, how in the world can Liberty Mutual say that you only pay for what you need? You only pay for what you need. Now, if I'm being honest, I have no idea the amount that you will need in a claim. I can sell
Right.
you an amount of coverage. I can say
Right.
that, well, your house RCV is $250,000, but I could never know what's going to happen to the house and how much coverage you may need. How would I know that? It's like car insurance, right? Like property damage, yeah, likely it's going to be another car you hit, right? But what about all
Right.
these people that go to the gas station, you know, uh, put the car in drive, not reverse, step on the gas, and go through the front of the store? Well, now
This
we've got
happens too.
thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that are right. You drove through the front of a building on accident, right? No big deal, right? It's all
No
good.
big deal.
Oops, right? But now what does your policy mean? What is your coverages? Do you have state minimum coverages, right? You only got $10,000. So it's something that more people need to defend themselves, because the insurance company would love to just sell you and that's, but also too, I don't understand how they make more off of selling it that way, because when I sold their policies for them, if I sold it on coverage, a lot of times the
You'd
premiums were
send
higher.
up. Yeah. You'd have. Yeah.
The
Makes
premiums
sense.
were higher. So if I sell higher premiums more often all the time, and the same perils hit at the same rates that they already do, right? You're not going to change how many tornadoes go through Oklahoma, right?
Hmm.
So if the same amount happens, but I've sold more premium because I've educated the customer on buying proper coverages, how do they make less money? I don't understand.
It might
There's
honestly,
obviously
and I
somebody
don't.
smarter than me, because I don't own. I'm not a $1 billion insurance company, so there's probably somebody watching this that's screaming at their phone saying this is why. But please reach out
There's
to
a
me. I'd love to have. I love
yeah.
having these conversations, with people in the industry, just because it's a frustrating thing to go to a person's house, or like you deal with homeowners all the time. They're just not properly
Mhm.
covered, and you want to help them,
Exactly.
and their house has been destroyed by a hurricane that they didn't even think was going to hit them,
Yep.
and now it did, and now it's already too late. And so now they're like, well, next time I'll have proper coverages, and um, so yeah, that's just, I'll get off my
Another
insurance
big
soapbox
thing
for a
is,
second, but it's
yeah,
just
another big thing is
it
flood
fires me up.
insurance.
Yeah,
Because a lot of people don't have flood insurance, and that is causing a lot of damage throughout the U.S. Not just like on the coastal cities or coastal counties, where obviously it does. It causes a lot in coastal counties because of not necessarily even hurricanes. It can just be a storm surge, cause a
sure.
lot of problems. But we're seeing this throughout the country, in a lot of places that you would never traditionally expect this. So even like Las Vegas, which
Oh,
is a
right.
desert. It's a
Yeah,
desert.
yeah.
You would not have flood insurance there.
But what
But
the, living in a desert means that if it happens, I
mhm,
mean, the price you pay on a policy, right, is the calculation of risk, right? And so that's why a higher deductible, right? You're taking on a little bit more risk on the front end
right,
of the lower amount of claims, right? You're not going to file for that. So then that a higher deductible lowers your price. You know what I mean? Take your car insurance down to $0 deductibles and watch what happens with your price. It goes up, right? Because
yeah, goes up
now the
dramatically.
insurance company assumes all the risk. It's just a sliding scale. So that means, in theory, the Las Vegas flood insurance would have been cheap. But just, again, you only pay for what you need. You only pay for what you need. You only pay for what you need. I see Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers on the TV all the time saying that, I can pick out how much insurance I want. I don't have to be educated on what it means. I can just pick a price, or I can just say this is what I can afford, like
Yeah.
Progressive does. It just, to me, it's just it's
It might
unethical. It's the
be.
wrong way to sell it. They'd make more money anyway, but
You would think so, but maybe this is actually part of their strategy in the sense of like, let's say that they're making slightly less premiums, but when it comes to actually paying out, they're not paying out as often. Because I mean, think about it. If you don't have proper coverage, then it's
yeah,
kind of like
they took in
Jeremy
all that
was saying.
premium, and yeah, then they don't
Yeah,
have to pay out. Yeah,
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 and it's not all the time that they're doing that, but and they're very, very good at spreading risk around. That's kind of
sure,
like their whole business model is
yeah,
they spread risk around, so they'll never insure a lot of homes all in one cluster. So they never insure like all these different homes right next to each other. They spread them out, so that way, if
sure,
there is like let's say a hurricane or any kind of
yep,
damage, it's only going to take out like a small portion of their total supply of homes, and so that
yeah,
that way they can go ahead and pay out for that. But they know what they're doing. Whatever they're doing, they know what they're doing.
oh yeah,
They're the ones in the driver's seat. They know exactly what they're doing with marketing as well too. You and I may not understand this. Like it just seems
obviously we don't own
asinine.
Progressive, but you know
Right,
what I mean.
right,
There's
right.
reasons why. I always say that, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean
But
that's
yeah, from the homeowner's perspective, though, I definitely think education would do a lot to help people out. Like if you really want to protect yourself, which obviously you should, it's probably not a bad idea to have a public adjuster review the policy. At least you have an expert in their field
exactly.
that reviews it.
They're
And a lot
licensed
of
by the
times they'll do that for free. They
Yep,
won't even charge you anything to do it, just kind of as a good favor, and they hope that you'll come back to them in the future. But if
sure.
they review it all in advance, then that way you're better protected whenever it does happen. You're going to have a
Well,
lot
or
better protection.
just make your insurance agent earn his residuals, right? Book an hour meeting with him. I mean, nobody does this, right? So
Yeah,
you
tell me
you're
about
you're
that.
Tim Brown or whatever, right? The guy down the street, right? That
Right.
my local State Farm agent, right? Nobody's doing this, so he's got plenty of time, right? Um, Book an hour with him to go over your coverages every year. You do that with your
Wow.
health, right? Do it with
Yeah.
your house. And then once you do it a couple times, guess what? You can probably do it yourself, right? Because
Okay.
but he makes residuals every single year that you just renew that policy over and over again. And so many people we'd quote that, oh, I've had State Farm for 25 years, right? Well, that agent has earned residuals that entire time. Make them earn
Huh.
it. Make them earn it. Make them explain. Make them dust off their, insurance licensing book and say, well, this is subrogation. This isn't. This is what this is what this means. This is what medical
That's a
expenses
great
mean,
idea.
right?
Yeah.
Just do the same thing that you do with your health and your life insurance every year um, with your benefit package.
Yeah.
When I worked at that company, it was all rolled together, so it was a little. We got people to do to review it, but again, the industry is not designed that way. I was flagged for being on phone calls too long, right? But I'm educated. I'm educating the homeowner. We're going through questions, right? I'm following up with them. I'm doing this.
And you get in trouble. You're
Yeah,
like
I'm
get in
doing this
trouble. Like,
weird
wait a
thing
minute.
of just yeah, and I'm like, well, check, check the conversion rate, right? But also check the premiums, right? Sometimes the premium goes up, or sometimes we do this. We'd like, hey, that's great. We educated on on your policy terms. You understand what this means. You're saving $750 between home and auto. What if we did this? What if you save $500 this year and we bump up and we add more ALE coverage, right? Coverage D. What if we add more contents insurance, right?
Exactly.
So to kind of future proof that over the next couple years, right? What if we add more to your RCV or add that kicker, take that kicker from 25% over your reconstruction cost to 50%? Now, it would even account for inflation, right? Let's get rid of your, to me, the scams that are roadside assistance on your auto, right? And what's the other one? Glass. Some states, Glass is such a ripoff. Rental car too. That to me, just my opinion. If you have those things happen, then go purchase those things. Right. You should have enough in a rainy day fund to be able to self-insure for those
Hmm.
items. Right. And don't pay your insurance carrier because they want to paint it like, hey, call us if you run out of gas on the side of the road. But what they're not telling you is, hey, that's an $80 claim. And while two of those a year really doesn't affect it, what does start to affect it is you get, 2 towing claims, right? You've got a speeding ticket, you got a little fender bender, and then maybe your, teenage daughter, right, bumps into somebody or something, gets a speeding ticket, moving violation. Now the aggregate of all those different little things add up, and your rates jump, right? Where
Wow.
if I have AAA, I pay them $50 a year. I have 10 or 5 tows, right? $10 a piece, right? And then next year, guess what? They renew it for another $50 a year. If I make 5 towing claims to my car insurance company, good luck on your renewal next year, right? You better not have
Wow. Okay. Now
anything
I
else
didn't.
happen.
I got
It
to be
doesn't
honest.
affect
I
it,
did
it doesn't
not.
affect it that much, but what it affects is that you start to
Yeah.
get, because I did this on, I don't have any actuarial data to back this up, but I can tell you
Yeah.
just reviewing and quoting people for a while, for years, that you see trends, right? It's really not it's the sum of all the little claims, right? When you can just not make that claim ever and just have AAA, and it's a completely separate service, but you've bought into this idea, like, I don't have rental car, I don't have glass, I don't have what was the other one? I'm sorry. Um, I don't have the roadside
Roadside.
assistance is what it
Yeah.
is. Yep. I pay for all that separately. I haven't bought a rental car in years. Why would I pay, even if it's $5 a month for rental car coverage? Why would I pay for that when I haven't used a rental car in years? Other than a trip,
Right.
not as a result of an accident that mechanism would take place in the policy, right? It wouldn't be relevant. So
Exactly.
that's some of my, stuff that I tell people, and instead I would take that
Huh.
and say, hey, look, let's take that money, let's save that, $22 a month. It wasn't expensive, right? But now let's go and let's up your medical expenses on your auto coverage, right?
Right.
Let's spend that there, and then let's bump up, that's probably $12 of it, right? And then
Hmm.
let's bump 10 more dollars, and let's go from, 75, 100, 75 to 100, 300, 100 on your auto insurance, right? Let's bump that up. And then medical expenses, what's that? That covers you and your passengers, regardless of fault in the accident, for up to that amount. So they're super cheap. You can get 10,000 per person in the car for super cheap, right? Don't give them rental car money, give them that, because then,
Hmm.
now let's play it out. Why would that matter? All right, well, you and whoever is in your car, regardless of fault. So that means, let's say you with your family, somebody runs a red light, hits the car. Somebody
Right.
you run a red light. Now it's your fault. Doesn't matter. They get an instant $10,000 payout to help them with their medical bills.
Wow.
Now let's say we're at work, and everybody's like, "Yeah, let's go over to the sports bar for lunch." And somebody runs a red light, or you run a red light, or now that's your boss in the car with you. Wouldn't it have been better, instead of paying for rental car coverage you're never going to use, to now have a $10,000 payout to be like, well, sorry, Mr. Boss, or, coworkers or family or whoever. That person ran a red light. It's none of our fault, but hey, there's $10,000 in my policy to get the medical bill started. Just simple things like that you can review and understand. And again, it doesn't cost as much as you would think to have proper coverages, especially when you look at the payout. Again,
Yeah.
$25 for water backup would have got me $10,000 of my stuff repaired, drywall, carpet, all my contents. I declined it. So because of that peril, it was not covered. Yep.
That's interesting.
Yep.
That's really interesting.
So
Just to think about all these things, but because you're absolutely right. A lot of people, especially when it comes to their, PNC, policies, they have no idea what's in there. Because if they're in a area that's had a lot of flooding, they might have flood insurance, but a lot of the country does not have flood insurance. And flood insurance is expensive. It's not
right.
a cheap policy. But there's areas throughout the country right now that have seen floods that have never seen floods.
Sure.
And so, you're having this huge amount of flooding that's happening all over the place. I think it's a great idea to get, or at least look into that. See if you could afford something like that. But
And
yeah,
if
so
not, maybe it's something you self-insure, though. I mean, that self-insurance is a concept that, when you get enough money, and people get
mhm,
wealthy enough, they self-insure, right? They no longer buy certain, they own their house, right? You can insure. Now, they still should keep home insurance after you own your house. I was just talking with our buddy Daniel, with people that pay off their house and cancel their home insurance because they think they don't need it anymore, and they're, confusing it with mortgage insurance. It's not
right.
the same thing, but Yeah, it's definitely a topic that to bring up, and I'm excited to go to APA, the APA summit this year. Doug Quinn
Yeah.
and those guys over there put on a summit every year. So I've not been before, but what I like about some of Doug's messaging is that they try to fight fraud in all areas. So a lot of times the homeowners, just stuff that they don't know, the policyholders really, they don't know what it's like to have a claim. They don't know what it's like to get the mortgage company to sign off on it. They don't know any of this stuff. And so to fight it with the contractors that are doing, shady stuff, the insurance companies, not paying out claims properly, adjusters giving runaround, homeowners, homeowners too, right? I mean, trying to get contractors to eat their deductible when the reason that they have a high deductible is because they've had low premiums, right? It's a sliding scale, like I just said. So
Yep.
like they've had the benefit of having low premiums and a high hail deductible, and everything's been just fine until they have a claim. And now the
Right.
rubber meets the road, and now they're like, well, I don't want to pay 3% of my reconstruction cost in a hail claim. I mean, if the house would have burnt down, I'd only owed $1,000, right? But they called their insurance company. They said, hey, get me a lower price. They switched the
Yeah.
hail deductible because they're trying to beat a number. And now all of a sudden they got a poor roofer there, and the roofer's like, whoa, trying to figure out how to make the sale, and they're trying to figure out how they can eat a deductible when the homeowner, to me, that's fraud because you've already got the benefit of the low deductible. You should have been piling that cash yourself in a savings account for the rainy day,
Right.
and self-insuring. So yeah, if people self-insure more, just know your coverages, and make your insurance agent, that your good hands, or your good neighbor, whatever their slogan is right now. Make sure that they're earning their residuals. So that's the
Right.
Friday message I got,
So
I guess.
so let's
So
go into this. Like, so if you
yeah,
do have a claim and it's for, I don't know, just $60,000, you gotta, replace a roof, you gotta, do all these things to your house, repair it. Um Now walk me through that process. So is the company just going to send you that check, just like so that you can pay for the roofer? How does that work?
so you're gonna have the damage happen, right? You got the date of loss. You're gonna call and make a claim. They're gonna send out an adjuster, and then they're gonna survey the property and come up with an estimate is what they should do, right? But what happens is that when the claims get large enough, whether it's just a roof, maybe it's a large house, or expensive materials or something, right? Or maybe it's a wind claim or a water claim, like you were talking about, a fire, different perils that really destroy a good chunk of the house. And in your example, a $60,000 claim, right? That's over
Right.
the kind of the mortgage industry threshold where they get their name actually put as a payee on the insurance claim check. And the reason that is because, again, I don't defend insurance companies or mortgage companies very often, but you can imagine, the situation like after Katrina, right? A lot of people, such widespread devastation, such in a bad condition. A lot of people took their ACV money and bounced, right? And just let that home go back to the mortgage company. But that happening at scale, is problematic for multiple industries, right? Because then now there's a bunch of houses that are in disrepair and no funds to repair them. So I understand why they get involved, right? It makes sense because again, there's
Right.
fraud in every part of this, right? The mortgage company's worried that the contractor's going to run off without doing all the work, or the homeowner's going to go buy a Corvette, or just something's going to happen, right? The problem
Yeah.
is that you inject the mortgage companies, and they're just not familiar and educated on construction and how stuff has to go together, how the mechanisms in their policy work with recoverable depreciation holdbacks and everything. And so every mortgage company can do what they want, so that you finally, you battle with your insurance company, maybe, right? Depends on who they are and what happens, right? So let's say you do though, but you battle with your insurance company to get funds paid out for your claim like they should have been with the policy you purchased. And now the check comes with a mortgage company listed on it. And now we got to get them to sign off. Or if it's a large claim like that, they do this process called monitoring, and they monitor the claim where they actually will take the money uh, into their bank, right, and
Like
deposit
an
it in an
escrow or
escrow
something
account.
like that.
Yep, they're going to
Yeah.
escrow it for
Okay.
the homeowner. And again, in theory, it makes sense, right? Just like in theory, insurance makes sense, but you put a bunch of flawed human beings running it, and there's greed and there's things that happen, right? So
Right.
the system may work in theory, but on paper, but maybe not as well in practice. And so what happens is the mortgage company holds on to the money. They want to disperse only certain amounts. It causes issues with the contractors because the contractors like, hey, I can't rebuild a house, you know, $150,000 house for 25 grand. I know that's what your
Right.
bank policy says, but it doesn't make sense. Or you get the roofer, right? He's going to put on a roof in 2 days maximum, maybe 3, right? But the mortgage company's policy says, well, you know, because this claim is a monitored claim because of the amount of what it is, or maybe the homeowner's been delinquent, right? They're going to monitor the repair status and do inspections. But on a roof, they're not going to do that. They're not going to build the roof in 25% stages and do an inspection in between, right? They
Right.
do that on a water or fire, right? Our buddy Daniel, he gets 25% of the house redone. They do an inspection, you know, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, cabinets, drywall, right? And then they're ready for an inspection, and then they release more money. So it makes sense in that, but you don't build a roof that way. You don't go tear it off. You know, tear off the shingles, call the mortgage company, say, hey, come out next week and
Right.
inspect that 25%, and then release us more money. We'll go buy the shingles actually, and we'll just leave the roof open until then. It doesn't make right. I
Right.
mean, it's laughable, right?
Right.
So it doesn't make sense. So all that stuff starts to happen, and it just causes delays. It causes contractors to lose jobs because a lot of them will just kick it to their homeowner and say, "Hey, you get the mortgage company to sign off on it. Let me know when you get money. I'm going to go climb some more roofs in this area." But then not all those people float back to you. They float back to you in weeks, in months, you know, because now the homeowner's saddled with who knows what happened. You know, hopefully it's just a roof claim, right? And they're still in their house. But I mean, I talk to people all the time through some of our partnerships, and you know, some of these people lost their entire house. Their entire house burned down. They're at their adult, you know, child's house staying, you know, for who knows how long because maybe they don't have ALE coverage properly or whatever. They're
Yep.
putting in their check with ink on their grandkid's iPad. I mean, you know, these people are in emotional, distraught, crazy situations, and yet the mortgage company's like, well, you know, we're sitting in this nice cushy bank in the corner office, and we see the pond and the goose and yeah, sorry, we don't disperse money until you jump through these 5 hoops and stand on 1 foot, tap your head, rub your belly, like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it becomes ridiculous. And so that's what we try to do is just help the restoration, you know, professionals, just kind of like you're doing, right? You got a niche, but it's such an impactful niche that you can really make a difference in the homeowner's experience. And so, you know, I really think that you know, in some ways the carrier should be involved in their homeowner's claim experience, because that makes them more likely to go back and purchase another policy and keep giving them money, unfortunately. But you know, different things like that. So that's kind of what Inc. does is help with all that. Our clients are usually contractors, public adjusters, property attorneys, and we help them and their homeowners, you know, assemble that mortgage package, take pictures of the check, you know, send those in. If it needs to be endorsed and needs to travel somewhere, we provide FedEx shipping labels. Some of the future things we're working on is a digital mortgage company experience,
Wow.
where you'll take a picture of the check and the rest of it's digital. We're going to bring the industry, you know, into the 20th century.
Drag them
They're like,
in.
yeah, they're like 1998 right now, you know. Um, but that's okay. We're still working on it, but that's kind of what we can help, and really just ultimately it's kind of like you know, it helps them get in their home faster. It helps their experience. It helps with just everything else they got going on in their life,
Mhm.
besides handling, you know, a claim that they never anticipated happening.
Wow. So
So,
that just kind of like thinking about all these things,
mhm,
that sounds just like the entire process. It sounds like a nightmare, from all these different people involved, but most, the worst is probably the homeowner. They're the ones that they're kind of like a victim in the sense that this happened to them, and
yep,
now they're the ones displaced out of their home, and then they got to go through all this kind of stuff. It's just a nightmare to hear about all these different processes that have to happen along the way. It's just like so much difficulty all the way around, from so many different people's perspective, mainly the
right.
homeowner, but you've also got the contractor. It's just like just trying to do his
Well,
job,
well,
like,
even our friend Daniel, right? I mean, he's got some
yeah.
homeowners that are fortunate and have worked hard and everything, right? And been good with their money. They don't have a mortgage. Well, now the
Oh
problem
wow.
is that the carrier doesn't release all the money, right? They don't release enough. They hold back a bunch of depreciation, and so now he has to sit there and carefully, you know, get the money released in stages and stuff like that. So, you know, we're helping him out with even just some depreciation, you
What?
know, because
Okay.
you got to put the house together the right way, right? Well, you know. they don't always release the money the right way, right?
So
Yeah,
so explain this to me. So
yeah,
sounds crazy to me, but obviously this is happening is
yep,
they paid their mortgage off. It's clean
sure,
and clear their home.
yep, yeah.
Their carrier still would not release the money.
They're not releasing enough money to do the different stages is what is one of the issues he's having. It's not every claim he has, right? But some
Right.
of them he has. We were just, I mean, we've been talking this week and about some of them, and to get the the funding properly flowing, um, the way that it should, it's totally going to change the game not only for him and his business, but it's going to change the game for the homeowner, right? I mean, these are people that are going to be
Right.
out of their home. It's a fire restoration. They're going to be out of their home 3 to 12 months, and it's usually going to be that 9 to 12 area, right? And so some of the stuff that we can do with what we're doing with Tim in that program is getting him funds that make sense, and then when those depreciation is released, or if there's a mortgage company involved, those get released. Then they just, they pay back the loan, and all of that makes it go a
Oh,
lot
okay.
smoother. And so because for a contractor, one of the most painful things for them is to start and stop work at a house, right? Because he's got all these different houses all over the city, and now he's got to be like, well, we got enough money to do this at this place, and we got enough money to do this at this place. So stop here and then go over here and do this. And now just get this amount of materials because all we got money for to do this. And right. And so that game of whack-a-mole will kill you. And,
Yeah.
and the only difference is just access to capital and the funding that makes sense. And with our founders, Ken and Ryan, that saw this issue and was, said there's got to be a better way, and
Right.
came up with the mousetrap, and it has expanded on it now of trying to. But again, it's just going back to helping people, and you can get a loan on this for way higher than Inc would ever charge you. Some of the factoring companies, in the industry will give you a loan, but it only solves half the problem. The homeowner still has to fill out the mortgage paperwork. Let's say you get the loan, the money up front, right, for 5 or 10%, right? There's contractors that'll pay that just to be able to build the job. Then they send in the proof that everything is done. Then the mortgage company releases the information, but somebody still has to do that, right? And so you saddle your homeowner. So if I'm a homeowner and I'm like, all right, I've got one guy sitting at my kitchen table that says that here's what we're going to do. You're still going to have to figure out the mortgage company stuff. We'll go ahead and build the job. We'll do this or that, right? And another guy who comes up and is like, hey, we got a solution that we can get the funding. We can go ahead and build the job, and we can go ahead and give you a dashboard and a website, and we'll work with you, right? And their staff will work with you on getting the mortgage company to release this. We'll give you FedEx shipping labels. We'll give you all this stuff so that it makes it as easy as possible. And it's just a turnkey thing that we have, just like our supplementing, right? We outsource supplementing to this person. So they fight the insurance company, and Inc will help with the mortgage company. If
Right.
you're solving the whole problem, right, then that's ultimately going to be, the right way to go about it in my eyes. So,
Oh, I like what you're saying, because you're absolutely right from a contractor's perspective as well. It's going to help you get more business. If you can go in
sure.
there and say, "Hey, we got a better process," it's going to be a lot less stressful on the homeowner. At the end of the day, that's their customer.
Well,
They
the only other thing that they're doing is they're helping do this mortgage endorsement process for their homeowner then. But the problem is bandwidth and time, right? It's the only resource that we have that we can't just make more of, right? And so
right,
is the contractor, is Daniel better at calling mortgage companies or calling Airbnbs, right? In your case, right?
right,
And calling hotels, or is his time better spent for not only his customers but just everybody? Is his time better spent in a house talking to somebody who just had a fire and helping them put their life back together? That's what he should be doing. So that just it allows him to outsource it and do it in a sensible way and get the project going and done, with the least amount of headache, and just the same thing with same service you're offering, right? What you guys do, I think, is awesome because again, you're just going about it the right way. And the saying of if you help enough people, you never have to worry about the money. I
yeah,
think that's totally true. The money will follow people that do the right thing. That's the other way that I say that. So
yeah, definitely. So we're actually stepping in there whenever they have a fire or whatever, what have you, and they're displaced in their home. we'll take care of them. We'll put them in a hotel, pay for
Awesome.
everything. They never have to come out of pocket. Another thing we can do as well is we can pay for their food. So like if they,
Oh, wow.
if they
Game
lost their
changer.
house, they don't
Yep.
have, because sometimes the people lose everything. They usually will have their phone, and that's important to have.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
if you don't have a phone, then you can't do a lot of things in life now. But
Yeah.
if they've
True.
lost all these things, then we can go ahead and send them like a virtual credit card, so they can go ahead and go out to eat, take
Wow.
care of their family.
Wow.
If they can get their clothes laundered, whatever they need to do,
Yeah.
we'll take care of it all, pay for everything, and we get reimbursed to the carrier. So that way they don't have to. It's one more thing that they don't have to worry about. We'll take care of them all the way up to whereas they can just till they get back into their house. And so,
Game
yeah,
changer.
I definitely agree. Whenever you're talking about one minor little thing like that, it's like it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it adds up. Adds up at the end of the day. Is like,
Well,
as long as you're taking care of people.
That 1% difference, like we talked
That's
when we
right.
started, right? Today,
Yeah.
that 1% difference will, those atomic habits, those little tiny changes that stand out, they all add up to a different experience. It's just like, somebody's claim experience that has, a good adjuster and a company that pays a good price and the contractor can come in. I've had worked claims where it was really easy, really painless. It was like the ideal situation. I've had others where, I'm sitting there saying, well, Mrs. Smith, for some reason, your insurance company has $5.5 million to be able to pay the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL for 30 seconds of ad time, and Drake, the musician. They got that money to do that for a Super Bowl commercial, but unfortunately, this one slope of your house, they're not covering. Right? Sometimes you have to go about it like that, right?
Yeah.
But it's just it's a wild industry, but it sure is. I've never found anything more rewarding and other than just helping people through this stuff and just providing education. And I love that what you guys do here with the podcast and stuff and just trying to get information out as well. So
definitely. I think that's important. I really wanted to highlight people like yourself that are doing this job that a lot of people have no clue about. You don't know anything about this. Don't we understand how this whole process works. But it's a crazy process. I'll admit, from my perspective, this whole thing sounds absolutely crazy and bizarre. And it ends up at the end of the day, you would think it would cost more money to do it this way. It's like, okay, so if you're not releasing the funds, I'm going to charge more money because I can't start and stop a job efficiently. So I'm going to charge more money. And the same concept goes with our side with temporary housing is they will know that the house will take at least 6 months.
Yeah.
It'll be a year sometimes or more, but they will only approve for 3 months at a time. Well, what do you think that does to the cost? I mean, the cost goes from, it could be double or more sometimes to get a place for 3 months as opposed to,
so they're shooting themselves in the foot. They're shooting themselves in the foot right there. They're driving up their own costs. Don't they have some actuaries sitting around like in a department, like back on some floor somewhere that could tell them that math doesn't work very well?
Exactly.
You would think, but maybe not. I'm sure there's some.
They're calculating all these other costs.
Accounting. Somebody's watching this like that's not how this works. So that's not how any of this works. But it just.
I love the comment.
Sometimes common sense. Just I swear. If we just did it. With a little bit more common sense, and made sense, and just put ourselves in the shoes of the property owner, right, and make things a lot.
I think it's like you said at the beginning of everything. Whenever they first started this whole process, they had the right thought, train of thought. They were trying to protect themselves. They're like, hey, wait a minute. If we give out a check for $60,000, what the hell do you think these people are going to do with that check? It's gone.
Yeah. Especially in delinquent. So, I mean, I've seen claims for a simple roof, right? It's a $10,000 roof. That's not a big roof. It's not an expensive roof, right? But it's a monitored claim. Again, I don't defend insurance or mortgage companies very often, but if you put yourself in their shoes, they're like, hey, Mr. Smith hasn't paid his tiny mortgage, his $1,000 mortgage, but yet we're going to just sign him over a check for 10 grand. I don't think so. No. Right. And so it makes sense. But again, the execution of it is completely flawed. And so, That's, same with the ALE stuff. I'm sure you guys find is just like you said, by that 3-month thing. I mean, that goes against whatever. And that's another thing that we're trying to do with one of the partnerships we have is that carrier understands that, if we turn the checks around faster and we help the homeowner, they're going to be happier with their overall claim experience. Um, but two, they're going to be, more likely to come back and buy another policy from them.
Yeah,
So it seems to make sense, and they also save on ALE, right? Because it's turned
right.
around faster, homes
You're
repaired
right.
faster, so less ALE. So, really, they should be, we should be taking numbers, but we got one on the hook right now, and
Okay.
I'm sure that'll expand as soon as they see the time and the labor, and also too, the insurance carrier kind of gets hosed in some of these situations too, because the mortgage companies will sell the loans back and forth to each other, right? And that always doesn't get communicated down to the property owner. It doesn't get communicated
Oh,
to then the
interesting.
insurance company. So guess what happens? Data loss, right? Insurance takes a few days. Insurance adjuster comes out. Now um, they do the estimate, right? Then they produce a check. They refuse to use anything besides United States Postal Service. So that's 7 to 10 business days if they don't lose it, and you have to request it again. But let's say it actually makes it there. Mr. Smith calls his mortgage company. Hey, Wells Fargo, I got this mortgage with you. And he says, no, you don't actually. We sold that to Bank of America. And so now he's got to call his claim adjuster and say, hey, sorry, I guess I have Bank of America home mortgage now. Please reissue my check. So another 7 to 10 day process if the Postal Service doesn't lose it and you have to start it all over again. And now
Wow.
you're at minimum 30 days, probably 30 days from the date of loss at least, or 30 days since they cut that check because you've had to wait 2 times now, right? And all the homeowner knows is this. Well, it took my insurance company, 30 plus days to get me money. I mean, that's what they're telling their friends at happy hour, right? They're being like, "Oh, how's your claim going?" And they're like, "Oh man, my insurance company. I thought they were a good neighbor. I was in good hands. I see their logo at every college football game in the net. You know what I mean? Like I thought that they were
Right.
going to pay me, but and it's actually not the insurance carrier's fault, right? It's actually the
Right.
mortgage company selling the loans. So it's another thing. If they were using a digital payment, they start putting digital payments into the Ink platform. Now we can accept that instantly. We're not relying, sorry, Mr. Postal Service man. You'll have plenty of Amazon packages to move, instead
Right.
of mortgage
They're not
claim checks,
hurting.
because those are going away, right? Those are going to be,
Right.
the Dodo Bird and Betamax and a concert ticket. When's the last time you had a concert ticket, right? I mean,
Right.
that's what'll eventually happen to the insurance claim check. So we're
So how
excited
much
to
quicker
try to
is
lead
it?
that
Just
charge.
out of curiosity, when you're talking about like some shipping things across the country via postal service as opposed to using ink, what's the
Yeah.
difference?
So if everybody's signing and using our labels, a problem that arises is they won't use our label, our return label, which is odd. They'll insist on using the postal service, even though we got it there with a 2 day. All the ink services come with a 2 day FedEx shipping label, prepaid, right? And we send a prepaid one to them. So whether they use it or not is about 50-50. But if they use it, and the homeowners are prepared right by the restoration professional and understand ink, and they're signing their documents with us so we can get
Hmm.
everything going. I've seen not monitored checks come back in days instead of weeks.
Wow.
5, 7, 9, 12. I did an audit of our insurance partner, American Family, and they did 95% of the not monitored checks that we put through were 21 days or less, 21 total days, not business
Wow.
days, 21 total days or less, 95% of them. And that's still using the piece of paper process, right? That's not using a digital process. So that's where we take to the next step and we say, all right, now imagine a world where you never have to recut a check. You never have to reissue a check due to the wrong mortgage bank. You simply send us an electronic payment. Now, just like the mortgage companies, the bigger the insurance company, the longer this stuff kind of takes, right, to get implemented. But we all can sit around and agree. When's the last time that you wrote a personal check to someone for something?
Nobody
Can you
does that
guess?
anymore.
I've been
No,
starting
I
to ask
mean,
it, but no, like really think about it though. Like
yeah.
we got a couple more minutes. Like I'm trying to think, and I don't know. I mean, I know I used to pay rent with a check. So that's at least 2008. Um, I've gotten cashier's checks, right, for certain things,
Right.
but that's a little bit different of a
Yeah.
transaction than me just writing a check to somebody. So everybody understands that it's going away. Everybody's actually already removed it from their life. But now the most important check, financially, if you're a house, right? The biggest investment that you have in your life, now that check with $250,000 on it, that piece of
Right.
paper is what is going to determine how fast we're going to get back into our home and
Yeah.
out of this stupid hotel or Airbnb, right? I
Exactly.
mean, that's
You're right.
and it just doesn't make any sense, right? It should be like a concert ticket. You should be able to go beep beep, and let you in the concert. Boom, your
You were
phone is
so
your
right
ticket.
about that.
You
I
know,
mean,
it, that's what we're working on. Big picture. That's what we're trying to do. So,
is it just like the carriers, just like they just like doing things that old way, or is
I
it the
mean,
whole?
it's a human nature thing, right? I mean, well, this is the way we've always done it, right? And so you have to show and prove. That's why I've been trying to network with some smaller insurance companies. I was just down at Core Collective actually in Austin, Texas last week, and was talking to a company that's about 150 employees, and just
Wow,
trying
it's
to
pretty
gauge
small.
like, hey, they do high net worth houses and individuals and cars, and but the idea is though that, hey, let's get somebody on board. We got a few mortgage banks that'll do a completely digital process with us, but they're the exception right now, not the rule. We do have agreements in place with two of the largest third party clearinghouses that do these lost draft checks, right? That way that'll turn it in. The check lands from the carrier. We take a picture. The rest of it's digital, and we're talking a couple days, right? And funds are flowing,
Wow.
rather than we're waiting on a check to be physically endorsed, to send it off, to get lost, to be reprinted. I mean, all that stuff it just doesn't make any sense anymore, right? So it's slowly gaining ground, and it'll be a good change once some of those things finally kick in. The other thing we're doing
Yeah.
too is creating like a Venmo or Cash App experience for contractors. So that way, right now, if you Venmo your contract, I think the limit's like $2,000 or something silly like that, right? You got to give them a paper check, or you got to do an ACH or a credit card transaction through their CRM or something. And so right now, you can just if it doesn't have a mortgage company on the check, you can just take a picture of it and do one DocuSign email, and we can move the funds for you. And that's completely free with all of our clients on Inc. So a
Wow.
digital bank account, basically, just take a picture of the check. But the next thing that'll happen is we're going to release a wallet, and that will actually give you the ability to load money into your Inc. account and then transfer that money out, similar to PayPal, Cash App, Zelle,
Wow.
all those Venmo things. And so at that point, right, that's where I don't know if do you know the Company Cam guys and how they kind of
No. Tell me
so
about them.
so those guys, they started with the problem of it sucks to go back through my camera roll, right, and try to figure out where this picture was with this adjuster and stuff like that. And so they basically created a geotagged, photo app that would be where they could pull up to the house. That file, the Smith file, pops up, and then they see all the photos that they've ever taken at that house. They can quickly show the adjuster, here, this was the how the photo I took on February 12th. Great, right? Well, those guys were roofers. That's how they started out. That's why they made that. Then they start going along and getting bigger and bigger. Well, now you got a painter that wants to use Company Cam. You've got a landscaper. You've got all these people that are using Company Cam, and the reason is because it's a good solution to the problem, and it breaks out of that
Right.
roofing vertical. It breaks out of that market of just insurance claims. It just comes into everything, right? And so that's the same thing that'll happen with Think is I fully believe we'll become the verb when it comes to
You'll be like
restoration.
Venmo and
Just
Cash
ink
App and
just ink
Ink.
me the money. Yeah, just ink
Ink
me
me
the
the
money,
money.
right? And so you'll
Yep.
you'll have a digital contract, right, that you'll give, whether it's a retail job or whatever. If it's a painter and he's going to come in and paint your house, or a contractor is going to put a new addition on your house, and you guys have an agreement, you're going to pay 25% at the time, and he'll just say, just ink me the money, right? And so it's basically the same as Venmo, except we can do up to $1.5 million per transaction. So
Wow.
now, even if it's a small commercial or it's a multifamily, or you're not sending. I talked to a contractor this week that has had his homeowners Venmo him $2,000 at a time because that was the limit. So I don't know. I guys have to look up and see if Venmo limit is really $2,000, but that's what he told me.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
so that's
Yeah.
we can eliminate that with him too. Right now we just have to take a picture of a check, but if that check is under 1.5 million, we can
Wow,
process it through Ink completely free with everybody that's signed on. So whether
that's
somebody was,
great.
making an ALE check and, we want to get integrated with like the suppliers and stuff. So that way
Mhm.
the roofer takes in the money, boom, he can pay his subcontractor, pay the laborers, pay his material off, right away. That helps him not run a 30-day or 90-day net, on his materials.
Right.
Just the speed to money and speed to transactions. So we're super excited to build this ecosystem and then bring in partners of people that are doing the right thing for people in the industry like yourself and Daniel and those guys. So
That's great. That's great.
yeah,
I'm very impressed. I definitely think you guys are going to blow up. You guys are going to be the verb. You're definitely
we're
getting
gonna be the
there.
verb. That's what I started saying. I just feel it. Just ink me the money. So that's save time, get paid, right? But
I like it. I
yeah.
honestly do, and I'm sure there's a lot of contractors out there that would really like this as well. I mean,
Yeah,
this is
I tell
big
them all when
deal.
they onboard, right? The secret sauce to me, having done contracting before, is not building my day around picking up pieces of paper, only to take those pieces of paper back to the office so that the office admin, when they get time, takes those pieces of paper to the bank and then waits on the check to clear for the
Right.
funds to be available to then
That's
pay out my
asinine.
commission, to then order the materials, right? Well,
Right.
now, so if you use Ink Pay correctly, the free service we have, you're literally standing on a roof talking to Mrs. Smith on the phone saying, "Yeah, go ahead and send me a picture, text me a picture of the front and back of the check. I'm going to upload it to Ink. You're going to get an email. You're going to do one DocuSign, right? I wrote this bid last week, right? But I'm on another roof right now. You get the DocuSign, Mrs. Smith, you sign off, I sign off, right? I can do it on my phone. And then boom, Ink starts moving the money. We don't say, "Hey, Mrs. Smith, when can we meet at the gas station and do this awkward check exchange?"
Right.
Friday at 2? Oh, great. Yeah. 4:15 Eastern. Actually, I'm on with Caleb. I can't. I'm gonna have to make it at 6 p.m. or something more awkward and weird, right? You can just eliminate all that and just get the
Right.
funds flowing, right? And not be beholden to pieces of paper. Now you can start paying out your reps per job because all the checks come in right away. So just start splitting off money. You can put another transaction into Ink, send them that if they're 1099 or whatever. But there's just all kinds of different ways that you can use a payment app that makes sense, that's built by people that get the restoration industry, and not
Great.
just Venmo, who they're just on the lookout for gamblers, right? I mean, that's all they care about is that
Right.
just don't do any gambling on our app, and you're good, right? Everything else is fine.
Exactly.
So yeah, man,
Excellent.
it's gonna be fun. I'm super excited for the future. I think we got something great going on here. So
I think you do too. I have a lot of confidence in your company. I like your company. Honestly, I really do. I think you guys are really changing a lot of things for a lot of different people. It's just a matter of kind of working out the kinks and actually getting your name out there. But I think you guys are going to blow up. You got in 5 years, you guys are going to be the verb.
the
We're
verb,
going to be hearing about it in the industry. And probably outside of the industry, you may not, people may not know about it, but
sure,
we're talking about in the industry. Yeah, people are definitely going to know about your name.
yeah. Definitely. Yeah. The other thing too that we found too is, you know, multifamily properties where the owners are in other states, just being able to transact money and have people sign electronically for large checks, where before they would, one person would endorse the check, they would mail it to the other person in another state, and they mail it to the other person, and they sign off, and the last person gets it and goes to the bank and deposits it. Now we just need a photo. So remote
Makes it
deposit
so much
capture.
easier.
What's funny about the mortgage banks, right? All the banks, they do remote deposit capture, they do DocuSign, and they do
Right.
ACH transactions. That's what we're doing.
Right.
So
Makes sense.
put it
Makes
all
sense.
together. Put
I
put
like
these
it.
4 letters on it. So yeah, man, this has
Excellent.
been great. I'm super excited. We should do one of these in October too.
Let's do it.
Let's
Yeah.
do
I'll
another one
line
of
it
these.
up right now. I'll send you the link and you can just
Yeah,
book it whenever you're free.
yeah, that sounds awesome. And let's see if we can't circle up at the APA conference. I'm excited to see, what that has in store, and to network with other people that are trying to fight fraud and just make a positive impact on this industry where so much can go sideways, it seems like. So
Definitely. Definitely. I'll look into that. But I like it. I like the APA as well. But
awesome.
they're actually out there, I think a really good represented company or organization that's really helping people. Definitely think
Right,
it's worthwhile.
just fight the fraud, you know what I mean, whatever level it's at. That's what I love about it. So
Yeah.
that's awesome, man. Well, you have a good weekend and happy Friday.
Same.
Appreciate
You
you
as
having
well.
me on, and I look forward to next time.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, Ben. You have a good one.
Yeah, thanks, Caleb.
Thanks.